The massive Empire starship emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system, its crystalline hull gleaming under the distant sunlight. Inside the Earth Defense Fleet's command center, Admiral James stood with his hands clasped behind his back, watching the main screen with steady eyes. This wasn't how humanity had hoped to make first contact, but they were ready. "They're broadcasting on all frequencies, sir," reported Lieutenant Smith from his console. "The Empire ship is requesting immediate communication." James nodded slowly. Humanity had known this day would come. For the past 50 years, they had detected the Empire's steady expansion through the galaxy. They had prepared, built their defenses, and hoped for peace while planning for war. "Open the channel," James ordered. The screen flickered to life, revealing a tall, blue-skinned being wearing an ornate uniform covered in medals and decorations. "I am High Commander Stone of the Galactic Empire," the alien announced, his translator converting his words to perfect English. "Your solar system lies within our expansion zone. We offer you the honor of peaceful submission to Empire rule." James straightened his back. "I am Admiral James of the Earth Defense Fleet. We welcome peaceful contact with the Empire, but we must decline submission. We offer friendship and trade instead." Stone's expression hardened. "You misunderstand, Primitive One. This is not a negotiation. The Empire has ruled 10,000 worlds for over 10 millennia. Your submission is inevitable." "With respect, High Commander," James replied calmly, "I strongly advise against hostile action. Humanity has a long history of warfare. We've spent thousands of years fighting ourselves, perfecting the art of combat. You don't want us as enemies." Laughter erupted from the Empire's bridge crew. Stone's lips curled into a sneer. "You think your primitive warfare experience means anything. We have conquered species that had mastered space travel when your kind still lived in caves." James sighed. "They never listened. They never understood. High Commander, let me be clear. This is not a threat. It's a warning. Humanity doesn't want war, but we excel at it. It's in our blood, our history, our very nature." "Your bravado is amusing," Stone replied. "You have one planetary cycle to submit. After that, we will demonstrate the Empire's power." The transmission cut off. James turned to his staff, their faces illuminated by the soft blue glow of their monitors. "Send the alert to all Earth defense stations. Begin Operation Lighthouse." As his orders were carried out, James walked to the window overlooking Earth. The planet looked peaceful from up here, its blue oceans and white clouds hiding the vast military infrastructure humanity had built. Hidden bases on Mars, weapon platforms disguised as asteroids, and fleets of stealth ships waited in the shadows of the solar system. "Admiral," Lieutenant Smith called out, "all stations report ready. The civilian evacuation to underground shelters has begun. First Fleet is in position behind Luma, and Second Fleet is hidden in the asteroid belt." James nodded. They had planned for this scenario for decades. The Empire, with all its power and history, had never faced anything like humanity. They didn't understand that Earth's nations had only recently united because they had spent millennia trying to destroy each other. Every weapon, every tactic, every strategy had been tested and refined in the fires of countless wars. "Send one final message to the Empire ship," James ordered. "Keep it simple." The young communications officer typed quickly, then read aloud. Message reads, "You were warned. What follows is on your heads." James watched as the Empire ship maintained its position, probably preparing for what they thought would be a simple subjugation mission. They would expect Earth to either submit or fight according to the Empire's rules of warfare. They would expect an inferior civilization to be easily crushed by their superior technology. They would be wrong. The Empire didn't know about the electromagnetic pulse weapons hidden in Earth's satellites. They hadn't detected the swarms of microdrones waiting to infiltrate their ships. They couldn't imagine the biological weapons designed to target their specific DNA, or the quantum computers ready to hack their systems. "Now we wait," James said softly. watching the Empire ship float arrogantly in space. They'll either leave or learn why humanity's worst nightmare isn't the darkness of space, it's us. Behind him, his crew worked silently, preparing for the war that would change the galaxy forever. They had tried to warn the Empire. Soon, the entire galaxy would understand why humans had always said, "May your gods help you if you make humanity your enemy." The Empire's attack began exactly as predicted. 5 massive warships dropped out of hyperspace, their weapons charging with a purple glow. High Commander Stone was confident. This was a standard subjugation mission, one his forces had performed countless times before. "Launch the first wave," Stone ordered from his command chair. "Show these primitives the might of our empire." But something was wrong. His tactical display showed empty space where Earth's pathetic defense fleet should have been. The humans' orbital stations had vanished. Even their satellites were gone. "High Commander," his sensor officer called out, confusion in his voice. "We're detecting movement in the asteroid belt." Stone dismissed it with a wave. "Probably mining ships fleeing. Focus on the primary target." That was his first mistake. Commander Tom watched from his stealth ship hidden behind a small asteroid. "All units in position," he whispered into his comm. "Remember your training. Let's show them how humans fight." Suddenly, hundreds of asteroids began moving. The Empire ships detected the movement too late. These weren't normal asteroids. They were hollow, filled with fusion drives, and guided by human pilots. "Impossible," Stone shouted as the first asteroid slammed into one of his ships at near-light speed. The Empire vessel shattered like glass, its shields useless against such primitive but effective weapons. "Launch fighters," Stone commanded, but his squadron leaders reported something terrifying. Swarms of tiny robots, barely visible to their sensors, were eating through their fighter bays. The humans had released millions of nanobots hours ago, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Commander Tom's voice crackled across all frequencies. "This is what we tried to warn you about. Humans don't fight fair. We fight to win." The battle turned into chaos. Empire ships fired their advanced weapons at empty space, while human stealth vessels struck from impossible angles. The asteroids kept coming, some exploding into clouds of metal shards that shredded Empire shields. "How are they predicting our movements?" Stone raged as another ship fell to human tactics. His crews had trained for centuries, perfecting the art of space combat. But these humans, they fought like demons. The answer came from his engineering officer. "Sir, they've infected our targeting systems with something. It's like a virus, but it evolves faster than our defenses." Tom smiled as he watched the Empire's formations break apart. Humanity had spent decades preparing computer viruses that could outthink any alien defense. While the Empire relied on perfect formation and precision, humans had programmed chaos into their weapons. The killing blow came 3 hours into the battle. Stone watched in horror as his final support ship was dragged into a trap. The humans had created an artificial gravity while using technology the Empire had dismissed as theoretical. "Impossible," Stone whispered again, watching his mighty fleet reduced to drifting wreckage. "We are the Empire. We have ruled the stars for 10,000 years." "That's your problem." Tom's voice came through once more. "You've forgotten how to adapt. Humans, we never stop learning new ways to fight." Stone's mighty flagship, once the pride of the Empire fleet, now floated alone among the debris of his battle group. His crew looked to him with fear in their eyes. In all their history, no Empire fleet had ever suffered such a defeat. "This is Commander Tom of Earth Defense Force." The transmission was clear and calm. "Your fleet is destroyed. Your fighters are disabled. You have 2 choices: retreat and warn your Empire about us, or stay and learn firsthand why humans are the monsters other humans fear most." Stone looked at his tactical display one last time. Where there had been empty space, now hundreds of human ships decloaked, their weapons aimed at his vessel. They had been there the whole time, waiting, watching. With trembling hands, Stone gave the order to retreat. As his damaged ship limped back into hyperspace, he realized the humans had planned this all along. They hadn't just beaten his fleet. They had wanted survivors to spread the word. Back on his command ship, Tom watched the Empire vessel flee. "Send word to Admiral James," he ordered. "Tell him Phase 1 is complete. The Empire just learned their first lesson about humanity." He looked at the debris field that had once been the Empire's elite ships. "Let's hope they're smart enough to learn from it." Admiral Mary stood on the bridge of Earth's newest warship, the Thunder, watching as her fleet dropped out of stealth mode near the Empire's main supply base. After the humiliating defeat of their first attack force, the Empire had expected Earth to follow normal combat rules. They were about to learn another hard lesson. "All ships report ready," her first officer reported. "The Empire still hasn't detected us." Mary nodded. The Empire's mighty space station floated ahead, its golden towers stretching for miles. Around it, hundreds of Empire supply ships moved cargo, completely unaware of what was coming. "Begin Operation Thunderstorm," Mary ordered. Across her fleet, hidden panels opened on Earth's ships. But instead of launching missiles or fighters, they released clouds of what looked like black dust into space. The Empire's sensors didn't even register it as a threat. "Dust clouds spreading as planned," the weapons officer announced. "Empire shields are ignoring it as space debris." Mary allowed herself a small smile. The dust was actually billions of tiny robots, each smaller than a grain of sand. While the Empire focused on building bigger ships and stronger shields, humans had gone the opposite way. The first alarm on the Empire station went off 5 minutes later. "What do you mean our shields are failing?" The Empire commander shouted at his engineers. "Run a diagnostic." But it was too late. The micro-robots had slipped through their shields' energy gaps, too small to trigger any warnings. Now they were multiplying, using the station's own metal to make copies of themselves and eat through crucial systems. "All ships, begin Phase 2, Mary commanded. The Earth fleet split into small groups, using tactics that would have made ancient pirates proud. Instead of engaging in proper space combat, they darted between Empire ships, causing chaos and confusion. Empire captains tried to form defensive lines, but the humans refused to fight in organized patterns. "They're breaking every rule of space combat." An Empire officer cried as a human ship flew straight through their formation, dropping what looked like old-fashioned naval mines in its wake. "That's because we never agreed to your rules," Mary broadcast on all channels. Her voice was calm, but carried a hint of steel. "Humanity spent thousands of years fighting itself. We learned that survival matters more than looking proper in battle." The Empire forces tried to adapt, but centuries of fighting the same way had left them inflexible. When they formed shields in front, humans attacked from below. When they protected their engines, humans targeted their sensors. It was like trying to fight water with a sword. "Ma'am, the station's defenses are down," her tactical officer reported. "The micro-robots have done their job." Mary pressed a button on her chair. Across the battlefield, every human ship activated powerful electromagnets. The Empire watched in horror as their own weapons and smaller ships began flying toward Earth vessels, pulled by magnetic forces they had never thought to defend against. "Primitive technology." The Empire commander spat the words. "You dare use such basic tricks against the mighty Empire?" "Basic?" Mary replied, her voice now heard throughout the station. "We're just getting started. Did you know humans once fought wars with sticks and stones? We've had a long time to think about all the ways to break things." As if to prove her point, the black dust cloud began to glow. The micro-robots had absorbed enough energy from the station's shields to create a massive electromagnetic pulse. Empire systems began failing across the battlefield. "Final warning," Mary announced to the dying station. "Surrender now, or watch how creative humans can really get with warfare." The Empire commander looked at his ruined command center. His mighty station had been defeated not by advanced weapons, but by tricks that his people had considered beneath them. His supply fleet was in chaos, and Earth ships were now using his own captured vessels against him. We surrender," he finally said, his pride broken. Mary nodded to her crew. "Secure the station, and send word to Earth. Tell them Phase 3 is complete. The Empire just learned that humans don't need fancy weapons to win a war. We just need to be ourselves." As her troops boarded the station, Mary watched the Empire soldiers laying down their weapons. They had that same shocked look that every Empire force showed when facing humans, the look of someone who had just realized that being civilized in war was a luxury humanity had never bothered with. Sometimes, she muttered to herself, "The old ways are the best ways." Colonel Jack stood before the massive view screen in Earth's hidden Mars base, watching as the largest Empire fleet ever assembled dropped out of hyperspace. 5,000 ships, including the legendary planet breakers, filled the space between Mars and Jupiter. This was the Empire's elite force, never defeated in 2,000 years of battles. "They brought their best toys," Jack said to his team. "Just as we hoped." The Empire's new commander, Grand Marshal Rock, had replaced the disgraced High Commander Stone. Rock had studied the previous battles carefully and thought he understood human tactics. "Spread out the fleet," Rock ordered his captains. "Don't give them any asteroids to use as weapons. Watch for their stealth ships. Block their primitive electromagnetic attacks." But Rock didn't know about Project Ghost. "Begin Operation Trojan," Jack commanded. His fingers moved across the control panel, sending signals to hidden bases throughout the solar system. The Empire fleet moved forward cautiously, their sensors scanning for Earth's defenses. They found nothing. No ships, no stations, no weapons. Earth itself seemed abandoned. Have the cowards fled? Rock wondered aloud. His answer came in an unexpected way. Throughout his fleet, Empire soldiers began falling asleep at their posts. Others started laughing uncontrollably or became confused about simple tasks. "We're being attacked," Rock shouted, but he couldn't see any weapons. "Where are they hiding?" Jack's voice came through every speaker in the Empire fleet. "Did you really think we only studied ways to break ships? Humans mastered biological warfare centuries ago. The air in your ships has been carrying our special gift for the past hour." Rock's eyes widened in horror. The humans had released an engineered virus throughout his fleet, one that passed through the Empire's best filters like they weren't even there. It wasn't deadly. That would have been too simple. Instead, it caused chaos. Impossible. Rock slammed his fist on his command chair. No species would dare use biological weapons in space combat. It's against every law of civilized warfare. "You still don't understand," Jack replied calmly. "Humans wrote the book on uncivilized warfare. Did you know we once used disease-covered blankets to defeat our enemies? That was 500 years ago. We've learned a lot since then." Empire ships began colliding with each other as their crews struggled to focus. Some ships fired randomly into space, their gunners seeing things that weren't there. The mighty planet breakers, which could destroy worlds, floated uselessly as their crews took involuntary naps. "Now," Jack ordered, "show them our real fleet." The space around the Empire Armada suddenly filled with ships. Not the small human vessels they had faced before, but massive warships that had been hiding in plain sight. They had been painted with light-absorbing materials and covered in sensors that made them invisible to normal scans. "You see," Jack explained to the struggling Rock, "while you were busy looking for our usual tricks, we built these. We call them planet makers, the opposite of your planet breakers. Instead of destroying worlds, they can shape them. Imagine what they can do to ships." To demonstrate, one of the planet makers fired a beam at a disabled Empire vessel. The ship's metal structure began to change, its atomic bonds reshaping themselves. Within minutes, it had been transformed into a cloud of harmless gas. "Surrender," Jack offered, "and we'll give you the antidote to our virus. Fight, and watch your mighty fleet dissolve into stardust." Rock looked around his bridge. Half his crew was asleep. The other half couldn't stop giggling. His mighty fleet, the pride of the Empire, had been defeated without firing a single shot. All their advanced shields, their powerful weapons, their perfect tactics, useless against humans who thought like barbarians but built weapons like gods. "We surrender," Rock managed to say between uncontrollable yawns. You truly are monsters." Jack smiled as he sent the signal for the antidote to be released. "We tried to warn you. Humans don't just think outside the box. We destroy the box and use its pieces as weapons. The Empire finally faces an enemy it can't beat by being civilized." As Earth ships moved in to secure the Empire fleet, Jack sent a message to Earth Command. Phase 4 complete. The Empire just learned that sometimes the smartest weapons aren't the biggest ones. The Empire's Grand Council chamber had never been so quiet. 12 of the most powerful beings in the galaxy sat around a massive golden table, watching recordings of their defeats against humans. The latest battle, where their elite fleet was defeated by invisible ships and a sleeping virus, played on the large screen. 4 defeats, First Counselor Gray whispered. 4 impossible defeats. General Robert of Earth's forces watched this meeting through hidden cameras his spies had planted months ago. The humans hadn't just beaten the Empire's ships. They had broken into the Empire's most secure networks, watching their every move. "The humans must be stopped," shouted Second Counselor, pounding his fist on the table. "Send every ship we have. Burn their world." "We tried that," a quiet voice said from the door. Everyone turned to see High Commander Stone, the officer who had lost the first battle. His once proud uniform was now plain, his rank stripped away after his defeat. "Did you not watch the recordings? Every time we send more ships, they find new ways to destroy them." In his command center on Titan, Saturn's largest moon, General Robert smiled. The Empire was finally starting to understand. He turned to his communications officer. "Send the signal. Begin Operation Divide." Back in the council chamber, alarms suddenly blazed. A junior officer burst through the doors, his face pale with fear. "My lords, we have mutinies. Everywhere. 30 systems have declared independence in the last hour." The council members jumped to their feet, shouting orders, but more bad news kept coming. Empire worlds that had watched humans defeat their unstoppable fleets were rising up. If humans could beat the Empire, why should anyone fear it? "This is impossible," First Counselor Gray shouted. "The Empire has ruled for 10,000 years. And that's exactly your problem." General Robert's voice suddenly came through every speaker in the chamber. The council members froze. "You forgot that things change. Humans? We live for change." Screens around the chamber lit up, showing Empire warships turning against each other. In system after system, colonial forces were declaring independence. The Empire's perfect order was shattering. "How?" Third Counselor demanded. "How did you turn our people against us?" "We didn't," Robert replied calmly. "We just showed them it was possible. Humans learned long ago that the biggest empires can fall to small ideas. We call it the domino effect. Knock down one piece, the rest follow." A new alarm sounded. The Empire's main computer network was displaying a simple message on every screen across 1,000 worlds. "If humans can beat them, so can you." "Stop this," First Counselor Gray pleaded. "What do you want?" "Want?" Robert's laugh echoed through the chamber. "We wanted peace when we first met. You chose war. Now we want to make sure you never threaten Earth again. The best way to do that: let your own people free themselves." Stone stepped forward, looking at the chaos on the displays. "He's right," he said quietly. "I saw Earth's cities. They're full of monuments to their wars, reminders of their mistakes. They don't want to rule us. They just want to make sure we can't rule them." The council members watched helplessly as their perfect empire crumbled, not from human weapons or armies, but from the simple idea that the Empire wasn't invincible. A message from Earth Command. Robert's voice came again. "You have 2 choices. Accept the independence of any system that wants it, or watch your entire empire tear itself apart. You have 1 hour to decide. In his command center, Robert watched the empire leaders argue among themselves. Humans had spent thousands of years studying how empires fall. Sometimes the strongest weapons weren't bombs or viruses, but ideas. Send word to Earth, he ordered. Tell them Phase 5 is complete. The Empire just learned their hardest lesson yet. Controlling minds is harder than controlling space. As the Empire Council fought over their decision, more and more systems declared independence. The humans had done what no species had managed in 10,000 years. Not with superior weapons or bigger fleets, but with humanity's greatest talent, showing others how to break their chains. Admiral Lisa stood at the command center of the massive human fleet approaching the Empire's home system. After the great rebellion of their colonies, the Empire had pulled back to their last 10 core worlds. They had built walls of warships around these planets, gathering their remaining strength for one final stand. They've concentrated everything they have left, her tactical officer reported. Over 10,000 ships protecting their core worlds. Lisa nodded, looking at the holographic display. The Empire had finally learned from their mistakes. Their ships were modified to resist human tricks, protected against viruses, electromagnetic pulses, and micro-robots. They thought they were ready this time. They weren't. Begin Operation Endgame, Lisa commanded. Show them our latest surprise. Across the human fleet, crews activated their newest weapons. The Empire had prepared for every trick humans had used before, but they didn't know about the gravity bombs. Enemy fleet detected. The Empire's Grand Admiral called out from his command ship. All ships, hold formation. They cannot surprise us this time. Lisa's voice broadcasted across all channels. Actually, we can. Humans have a saying. The only constant is change. We never use the same trick twice. The first gravity bomb activated. It looked like a small silver sphere, barely bigger than a baseball. As it detonated, it created a tiny artificial black hole that lasted for just 3 seconds. But 3 seconds was enough. Empire ships screamed as they were pulled apart, their advanced shields useless against the fundamental forces of space itself. The black holes winked out of existence before they could grow dangerous, leaving behind clouds of twisted metal. Impossible, the Grand Admiral shouted. No species has mastered gravity weapons. We hadn't either, Lisa replied calmly, until you forced us to get creative. You'd be amazed what humans can invent when we're backed into a corner. The Empire fleet tried to adapt, spreading out to minimize the gravity bomb's effect. But this was exactly what Lisa had planned for. As their formation broke, human ships darted between them, dropping their second surprise. Phase shift activated, her weapons officer reported. Suddenly, Empire ships began passing through each other like ghosts. Their matter had been shifted slightly out of phase with normal spacetime. Ships tried to fire at the humans, but found their weapons passing harmlessly through their targets. You see, Lisa explained to the panicking Empire commanders, while you were building bigger ships, we were studying the nature of reality itself. Humans are curious creatures. We want to understand everything, especially if it might help us win a fight. The Empire's mighty defense fleet was in chaos. Their ships, now slightly out of phase with each other, couldn't coordinate or support each other. Some vessels began disappearing entirely, shifted so far out of phase that they slipped into another dimension. Last warning, Lisa announced. Surrender your core worlds, or watch us take them apart piece by piece. And yes, we can phase shift entire planets if we need to. To prove her point, one of the human ships fired a beam at a small Empire moon. The moon flickered like a faulty hologram, then vanished completely. Don't worry, Lisa added. We'll bring it back once you surrender. Probably. The Grand Admiral looked at his disintegrating fleet. His ships were either being crushed by artificial black holes or phasing out of existence. The humans had taken their most advanced theories about space and turned them into weapons. "We surrender," he finally said, his voice heavy with defeat. "You truly are the most terrifying species we've ever encountered." Lisa allowed herself a small smile. "We tried to tell you that at the start. Humans don't just learn from our mistakes. We learn from yours too. Every time you forced us to fight, we came up with something new." As Empire ships began powering down their weapons, Lisa sent the final message to Earth. Phase 6 complete. The Empire just learned their final military lesson. Never force humans to get creative with physics. The human fleet moved forward to secure the core worlds, their ships now legendary across the galaxy. They had taken the Empire's greatest theories about space, time, and reality, and turned them into weapons that even their creators hadn't imagined possible. Sometimes, Lisa thought, the best way to win a war was to change the rules of reality itself. 1 month after the surrender of the Empire's core worlds, Admiral James stood in the same room where he had first met High Commander Stone. But now, instead of facing a single Empire ship, he faced the entire Galactic Council in a historic peace conference. "Let history record," James spoke to the assembled representatives from 1,000 worlds, "that this war could have been avoided. We warned you. We asked for peace. Now let's make sure no one repeats this mistake." First Counselor Gray, no longer wearing his golden robes of office but a simple diplomatic uniform, stepped forward. His pride had been replaced by wisdom earned through defeat. "We were wrong," Gray admitted, his words broadcast across the galaxy. "For 10,000 years, we thought being older meant being wiser. We thought our technology made us superior. Then we met humans." The Great Hall was filled with delegates from both former Empire worlds and newly independent systems. They all watched as humans, the species that had shattered an empire, prepared to establish a new galactic order. "Here are our terms," James announced, activating a holographic display. "First, every world has the right to choose its own path. Second, the Empire will be reformed into a trade alliance, not a military power. Third, and most importantly, Earth will share its defense technology with any world that wants to remain free." Murmurs spread through the crowd. The humans weren't demanding territory or resources. They didn't want to replace the Empire with their own rule. Instead, they were offering protection and freedom. "But how can we trust you?" asked a delegate from a former Empire world. "You defeated the greatest military force in history. What stops you from conquering us all?" James smiled and pressed a button. Above them, Earth's mighty warfleets began powering down. The gravity weapons, the phase shifters, all the terrible weapons humanity had created were being deactivated. "Because humans learned something important from our own history," James explained. "The strongest empires aren't built on fear. They're built on trust and mutual respect. Yes, we could conquer the galaxy, but we don't want to. We just want to make sure no one tries to conquer us." Stone, the former High Commander who had started this war, stepped forward. "I've studied Earth's history since my defeat. Do you know what I found most surprising? Humans spend more time building memorials to peace than monuments to war. They remember their battles so they can avoid repeating them." The assembly watched as human ships began helping rebuild worlds damaged in the war. The same technology that had created artificial black holes was now being used to restore shattered planets. Phase shifters that had sent ships into other dimensions were being used to repair broken worlds. "Let today mark a new beginning," James announced. "The galaxy now knows what happens when you force humans to fight. So let's spend the next 10,000 years seeing what happens when you make us your friends instead." The peace treaty was signed that day. The Empire became the Galactic Trade Alliance, with Earth as a member but not a ruler. Human scientists began sharing their discoveries, showing other worlds how to defend themselves. "One last thing," James added as the ceremony ended. He activated a final hologram, showing the first meeting where he had warned Stone about human warfare. "We're putting this recording in every museum, on every world. Not to shame the Empire, but to remind everyone of an important lesson. When someone warns you they're dangerous, believe them. As the delegates left to spread the news of peace across the galaxy, James looked out at the stars. Humanity had proven they were the most terrifying warriors in known space. Now they would prove they could be its greatest peacekeepers too. Send the final message to Earth Command, he told his staff. Tell them Operation Dragon is complete. The Empire didn't just learn to fear human warfare, they learned to value human wisdom. As his words spread across space, ships from 1,000 worlds raised their shields in salute. The galaxy had changed forever, not just because humans were the greatest warriors they had ever seen, but because they chose to be peacemakers instead. Sometimes, the most powerful weapon of all was knowing when to put your weapons down.